So I didn't get to film a video this Wednesday because I was actually hospitalized for something not related to diabetes, but it's kind of ironic because we're actually going to be talking about my hospitalization when I was diagnosed. So I got to the hospital and was put in an ER room pretty quickly, and while I was in the ER room, we waited about 30 minutes, and in those 30 minutes I was given an IV and put on an insulin drip, and they took another urine sample as well as blood samples from me. So once those all came back, which didn't take very long, they concluded that I did have type 1 diabetes. That was really heartbreaking to hear, and I just remember bursting into tears pretty much right then. Family would definitely want to know this, and so we began to call pretty much anybody that we were close to. So I stayed in the ER for a little bit, and then I got transferred to, I don't really know what it was. It wasn't a room. It was an area that was like an ICU, except for it was all curtains. So you'd have curtains to keep you not with the other people, and I stayed there the first night. I remember that I had to go bathroom, and they had to bring me like a portable bathroom because I still wasn't able to walk or breathe correctly, and so I couldn't go anywhere. But they brought me like a portable bathroom. However, the curtains didn't go all the way to the ground, and so when I sat down, like someone could easily see my butt like at the level where the curtains were, and I felt like that was really embarrassing. But obviously I was in a hospital, like you just do what you gotta do. And I remember that my aunt came and visited me, and that meant a lot to me. She actually works at the hospital that I was at, and so she came down to visit, as well as my friend from my dance company and my dance coach leader that year. They came and visited straight away, which of course means the world when you're in a hospital. And it was a rough night the first night. I didn't get pretty much any sleep. Again, we were in these rooms. There weren't really rooms, they were just curtains between, and there was like, I distinctly remember that there was a baby crying the entire night, and my mom didn't realize. She was like out, she was snoring, exhausted from the day, but I remember the baby crying the entire night. Another big thing is that when you're in DKA or possible DKA, they refuse to allow you to get water except through the IV, as well as you're not allowed to eat. And I had not eaten since like lunch the day before. I remember just thinking that I was absolutely starving and I couldn't wait to get food, but I wasn't allowed to eat until they gave me the go-ahead. So I had an entire day without food and I was starving, which again doesn't really help with going to bed. So the next day I was moved to a room, and I can't remember if I was in the room for 2 or 3 days, but it was a nice room. The hospital I went to has a really nice pediatric ICU. It's actually where I was this week, and so I kind of sparked some memories when I was there. And it's a very nice room. It's very colorful. They have washboards everywhere. Everybody that comes in is so nice. All the nurses have dealt with kids the entire time, and they all just are really there to help. And I remember that I had doctors coming in. It was consistent. Like, there would be doctors waiting outside the door for the next doctor that was in my room to leave so that they could come in. And I had nurses coming in every couple of minutes and checking my vitals. I had people coming in to take my blood. I had people coming in to fix my IVs. And then I had doctors coming in to talk to me about, you know, where I was medically and when I would get out. And then I had people coming in to teach me, nurses coming in to teach me how to give myself shots and take my blood sugar and taking my blood sugar. And then I had social workers coming in to talk to me about the different social problems that can come with this and different resources. And then we had people coming in to talk to us about financial things and about insurance, and like endocrinologists coming in to talk to us about the actual diabetes care, and it was crazy. And throughout that time, I remember that they also wanted me to watch these videos that the hospital had on diabetes, and I had to watch all the videos before I could leave. And so I was just, the entire day, I felt like I was just at school or something, like you would think that laying down in a hospital bed would be relaxing, but I had so many people coming in and out, doctors, and it was just, I was getting shoved with information I hadn't known before, and I was in a state where it was hard to take it all in, and I know that they were all just doing their job. It was just a lot for someone to go through. The other thing was, I of course had people that came and visited or sent me things, which was so nice. My mom had obviously been there with me, and my dad was the next one to come and visit the next day. He actually came that day, I believe, as well, that I was actually diagnosed. And you could tell that he was just really scared. I remember him coming in and just trying to play with all the different buttons in the hospital room, which is what he does every time he's in the hospital. Not smart. But I also know that a lot of the girls from my dance company came and spent some time with me, and they brought me like a card and a balloon, and it was like a Disney princess card, I remember. And my brother came and saw me, and that was probably the most heartbreaking, because I feel like I've always tried to be really strong for my brother, so for him to see me in that state was really emotional for me. Then my grandma and grandpa came, and my grandma actually got stuck with me because my mom had to go home and do some stuff, and so she was kind of the one sitting there with me for a while. I remember sitting in like one of the chairs on the side of the bed, and she sat on the other one, and we had like tea. And we watched Say Yes to the Dress, and that was just a really special moment for me and my grandma. When I first went in, the nurses would just take my blood sugar and give me shots, and they started to slowly ease me into doing it myself, first with the blood sugar and then with the shots, and I was horrified. I am not a person that likes shots. I don't like needles, never have been, but of course you kind of have to learn to do it. And I remember just full on going into breakdown mode the first time that I had to give myself a shot. I remember my grandma, that woman is fearless. She is so not scared of shots that she literally was like, just go ahead, because it was saline instead of actual insulin. So she was like, go ahead and like try it on me. Another memory I have from the hospital is that my mom and me, after I think it was the second night I was in the room, so I must have been there for 3 days. The second night I was in the room, I felt so overwhelmed with all these doctors coming in, and I had spent pretty much the entirety of the day up until like 7 talking to doctors without really any break. And so she came and she was like, okay, why don't we have like a calm movie night? And I was like, yes, please. And so she got in my hospital bed and cuddled with me, and we watched Inside Out on the TV because she'd never seen it. While I'm talking about all of this, I also just want to thank anybody that I forgot that came and visited me, and a lot of people sent me things. I remember that there was some joke between my mom and her sister that caused her sister to send me a stuffed pig that had wings, and I got plenty of cards and flowers from other family members and other friends, and it meant a lot to me. I also want to thank my now boyfriend, Nick, because although we weren't dating at the time, the entire time I was there, he was texting me consistently, and he wanted to come and visit me, I remember, so badly, but he was actually in Disneyland, maybe Disney World, for a band trip, and despite being in like the happiest place in the world, he was texting me and letting me complain and be scared, even though at that point we hadn't really hung out that much, and of course that really made me feel a lot better. I'm trying to sum this up really quick, so I'm sorry if it seems really jumbled. These are just how my memories are kind of coming to me. However, I do want to say that I had the best nurse. Most of the time I had one nurse that was assigned to me, and her name was Barb. I cannot explain how much this woman just completely changed my hospital experience. She was the best. She would come in and she would talk to me, and she was always smiling, always happy. She had the biggest like heart of anyone I ever knew, and I remember just talking to my mom and being like, this is the profession she's meant to be in. Like, she is meant to be a nurse, and she is meant to be helping these young kids. And she just changed my whole perspective on so much. Barbara honestly would come in and she would make me laugh, and she would tell me stories, and she'd hang out with me, and she was the one that helped me do all of the blood sugar things and the insulin, and she would just completely comfort me, and it meant so much to me, and I literally had a smile on my face every single time she came in. And on the last day, she came in my room, she was like, I said something about being cold, and she's like, did I not give you one of the blankets? And I was like, what? What are you talking about, blankets? And it's actually a thing. People will make blankets for charity for the children's hospital and give it to patients that are there for a long time. And like being somebody that was there, and like I can't even explain like how much something as simple as her going and getting me a blanket that someone had made, probably not thinking much of it, but doing it for charity to give to the hospital or whatever, and bringing it to me, like that little thing when you're in the hospital for that much time and when you're feeling so hopeless means so much. I had never been on the other side of that. I'd never been a person to get charity. I was always a Girl Scout or a National Honor Society, so I'd always been the person doing the charity and not really seeing it from the other side, and it just gave me a whole new perspective, because when you're doing things like making cards for like the elderly or for cancer patients, or you're making blankets, like you're just kind of doing it not knowing who's gonna get it, and it was just so eye-opening to see that when I got it, and to actually understand how much it could mean to someone. Even though it's a small gesture, it is so much to someone that feels completely hopeless. Anyways, this week, as a little update, which I was not expecting to be able to give this update, and of course I'm not happy I was in the hospital, but the timing couldn't be better, because I actually was in the same unit that I was in when I was diagnosed. And because of this, I was actually able to get in contact with Barb and see her again. Now, this time she was not my nurse, but the nurses all kind of grouped up and were able to get her to come and meet me. Originally, I was just gonna write her a letter just saying how much it meant to me that she put so much effort into me and was just so kind to me. But she actually ended up coming in to see me, and I told her that she just completely changed my life and how much it meant. She actually told me that she thinks one of the reasons that she felt so connected to me was because around the same time, one of her nieces, who was 6, actually got diagnosed with type 1 as well. And I didn't know that until this week, but that's just, I can't imagine like how she must have felt seeing me being diagnosed with this, having her niece diagnosed, and knowing that like her niece had to go through everything that I was going through. And so it's just really interesting to learn that part. I have no doubt in my mind that she would have been exactly as amazing given that that hadn't happened to her niece, but it was very interesting to hear that. So when I left the hospital, I had a ton of paperwork with instructions, a ton of new information that I couldn't keep straight, and I was completely overwhelmed, and I still wasn't in the best place, but I had a weekend actually right after I got out to kind of regroup before I went back to school. So when I left, I was still feeling completely just jumbled and all over the place, but I was feeling completely jumbled and all over the place. I had all these new medications, and I had this whole new life schedule that I had to play to, and I had all these different things to be aware of and to watch out for, and it was honestly really scary to actually leave the hospital knowing that I was in such fragile condition. I actually knew that I had to leave school again in order to go to a camp to learn more about diabetes over a longer period of time. And I was honestly so stressed about school. I was an all-A student, and so the idea of missing even more school on top of that was just horrifying, and the idea of having to face all my peers and just continually tell people about this diagnosis and knowing all the questions they were going to have was really scary. I'm hoping to get more into my transition back into real life more in my next video. However, I do just want to quickly say that I was also put on a medication known as Zoloft at the same time as I was diagnosed, and that plays a big part going forward in my story. I can't wait to talk about more of it in the future. However, for now, it is time to go. I'm sorry this was kind of a sadder video, but it was a very emotional time in my life. And I hope you guys are all having a great day. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this last 2 years. And I hope that you'll keep watching for my next video.